Have you ever asked a question, not to start a fight, but because you genuinely want to do the right thing? Here's a question I asked recently in a conversation with another Christian. Should I call a man a woman? I didn't ask not as a jab, not as a punchline, not with sarcasm. An honest question about how to navigate truth and love in a culture that feels like it's spinning out of control. And the answer I got was one I've heard 100 times. I think it comes down to respect. You should call someone what they ask to be called. Now, listen, on the surface, that sounds compassionate. It sounds polite. It sounds like the kind of thing a quote-unquote nice Christian would say. But I want to challenge that definition of respect, gently, but clearly. Because I do respect them, and that's exactly why I won't lie to them. So let's talk about this idea that respect equals compliance. We're living in a moment where kindness is often equated with agreement, and disagreement is labeled as disrespect. But those are not the same thing. Respect doesn't require me to pretend something is true that isn't true. In fact, if I really care about someone, why would I build a relationship on something false? Let me give you the example I used in that conversation. There are people, more than you might think, who sincerely believe they are younger than their biological age. Some people feel like they're still in their teens, even though they're in their 50s or 60s. Okay, so here's the question. Should we accommodate that belief out of respect? Should we allow them to enroll in high school? Should we allow them to compete in youth sports? And most people would say, no, of course not. And then comes the follow-up. Why not? Because age is objective. It's measurable. It's observable. It's grounded in biology and time. No matter how passionately someone feels otherwise, their age doesn't change. So when I brought that up, the response was basically, well, no, age doesn't change, but when someone says they're a certain gender, that's what they are. And right there, we hit a contradiction. Because we just agreed a second ago that something objective doesn't become subjective simply because a person feels differently. We both agreed reality doesn't bend to sincere belief. But now we're saying gender does? So which is it? Is gender objective or is it self-defined? Because you can't have it both ways. And this matters because it exposes something deeper in our culture. We've replaced truth with something else. If someone's truth, and I'm using air quotes, isn't grounded in something outside of themselves, if it changes based on emotion, preference, or internal perception, then it's not truth at all. It's a belief, or more precisely, an opinion. And opinions, even sincerely held ones, can be wrong. Now, that's not hateful, that's not cruel, that's just reality. And this is where the confusion really lives. Our culture has confused respect with agreement and kindness with compromise. So let me say it clearly because clarity is a form of love. Respect does not require affirmation. Love does not require participation in a lie. And compassion doesn't mean abandoning clarity. True respect is not pretending. It's not rewriting reality to make someone feel better. It's not calling someone by a false identity simply to avoid discomfort or criticism or being labeled. True respect honors the dignity of a person enough to speak truth. With humility, yes. With compassion, always. But without deception. Because here's a question that has to be asked. If I say I respect someone by refusing to lie to them, and you say you respect them by affirming something you know isn't true, even with good intentions, which one is actually rooted in love? Which one is grounded in truth? Because Scripture is not unclear here. 1 Corinthians 13:6 says, love rejoices with the truth. And if love rejoices in the truth, then lying, even softly, even with a smile, even to protect someone's feelings, is neither loving nor respectful. Now, let me be clear about something else. You don't have to be harsh to be honest. Truth is not an excuse to be arrogant. If you're using truth like a club, you're doing it wrong. But we also don't get to call compromise compassion. We don't get to baptize a lie and call it love. So here's where I land. Let's stop confusing kindness with compliance. Real respect speaks the truth in love, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. If this episode hit a nerve, I get it, because we're living in a time where the cost of clarity keeps rising. But Christian love isn't fragile, and Christian truth isn't cruel. We can be compassionate without pretending, we can be gentle without surrendering reality, and we can respect people deeply without affirming what isn't true, because love rejoices with the truth. And if you found this helpful, share it. Share it with someone who's trying to navigate these conversations with both conviction and compassion. And if you want the written version of this episode, it's posted on my Substack, dannytippett.substack.com, Tippit, same backwards as forwards. And it's there along with other articles and resources. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. Until next time, stay clear, stay kind, and stay anchored. Thanks for listening, and God bless.